Today on Off and On the Clock, we got lots of training camp news rolling in, which means we have new Scroll the F Down targets to potentially discuss. We're going to go through some of these ambiguous situations that might be making their way into our Underdog draft queues, and then we'll do a draft as well. This is Off and On the Clock with Pete, John, and Nez. Let's roll. All right. I think I need to coin that. Instead, I was trying to mash up training camp into just Tramp. We'll just call him Tramp.
Yeah, we got good Tramp news. We're a smut channel now. Congratulations. Yeah.
We'd be canceled in the 1950s for a word like that.
They were using that every day in the 1950s. Just absolutely no regard.
I think it just hit hard. Like if you said Tramp, then it was like, whoa,
beat it, Tramp. But we respect women here. Let's go ahead and move on with the show, guys. I wanted to say off the top here that I'm a little hobbled today. You know, it's best ball season, obviously, and it's cardio club season. And the only time I do 45 minutes of cardio or more is during best ball season. So I haven't done that in about like 6 months. And I woke up this morning and my left knee, and normally it's my right knee, but today my left knee is just absolutely killing me because I put 45 minutes plus into the Stairmaster like 2 days ago. Ooh. And then tried to do like a light jog, a little jaunt on the treadmill yesterday. So now I'm standing up and like constantly like flexing this knee because, you know, I only do cardio during best ball season. So, you know, I just want to tell everybody out there, if you're like me and you're trying to get the cardio club in, don't be a hero. Okay. It's all right to do three miles per hour on like a 1 incline on the treadmill to get the straps done. It's okay. Don't be like me.
Well, Nez, I can be your partner in crime or in solidarity today because I hurt my left knee. I was doing some walking dumbbell lunges, and I do my workouts generally in my garage, but I like doing the lunges out in my driveway, just have some more space to walk. But it had just rained, and I was just like some big dumb idiot, and I would just like walk out there, and my first step just completely slipped and just eat it right on my knee. So I have like a huge strawberry patch on my knee. So you and me getting injured while working out this week.
We're sitting out OTAs right now. Everybody's thinking about who's our backup. John's flying up boards right now.
Well, hey man, I got that lifetime history of knee stuff from playing puck all those years. Like mine clicks, so I only ride bikes for cardio now. So there's that. But like the reverse lunges thing, I can get on board with because I only do them reverse now, Pete. Because I can't
of that
full weight over front leg. I have to do back or back leg elevated.
Yeah, that makes sense. Clearly, I need to mix it up if I'm eating shit in my driveway. What have you guys been drafting these days? Where are you guys putting your time? I mean, we have so many different contests. I think even since we last recorded, we have Puppy Superflex, Marathon, and Sprint, all new contests.
Yeah, we did Superflex the other day on the stream. Obviously, a lot of baseball stuff mixed in there. And then in the evening stuff, like I've just been mixing in like the BBMs. I haven't been able to get a fast sprint going. I couldn't make it the time in which you guys did it yesterday because whatever schedule and stuff. But I want to get some of those fast sprints going in there. But for me, it's still just been like BBM and then Puppy Superflex on stream there.
Nice. What about
you,
Nez?
Yeah, I'm trying to hit these fast sprints anytime that there's a lobby available. So I know when you guys on the club were doing your sprint, I was super excited. I had my calendar marked and everything. I'm like, all right, finally get to do a fast sprint, get to have some fun with that. Doing those, I try to do like a BBM a night, and it's like I like look forward to it. You know, I sit down like, okay, it's time to do my nightly BBM. And then the other night I was doing one and John Boy Beats was in there. And then all of a sudden I'm getting like value after value. I'm like, okay, like I know something's wrong. And I immediately look and somebody was tossing the draft. So that was unfortunate. I had to push the plane on that, but it got canceled like the same night. So I didn't have to like worry that I wasn't going to be able to max. And then, doing a lot of baseball too, in between, but really enjoying, this best ball season as like, I kind of figure out what I think my stances are going to be or what they are, at least for the moment.
Yeah. Two things on that. One, I just want to mention, because I know it has been a little harder to fill some of those tournaments in the Deposit Kingdom channel. or Discord in the lobby, there's a channel called Rolls, and there is a Best Ballers tag. And also there's a BadgeBros tag. Those are for like if you're trying to fill a daily draft. But if you do the Best Ballers and you basically just react to the emoji, and then anytime someone tags that, you'll get a notification. And I would recommend starting to use that. I know people use it within the BadgeBros channel, the general NFL Best Ball channel in there, but that can be a tool to help you guys get those sprints filled, because generally there's a few people kicking around who would probably want to do that. And then, man, I was going to say something else to what you said, Nez, and I forgot, but it'll come back to me.
Well, I'm just taking stands right now. One of them is Anthony Richardson. I watched like one from the actual Indianapolis Colts YouTube account of like Anthony Richardson's best plays while he was healthy, and just completely reestablished my stance of thinking Anthony Richardson is going to be a stud. And then John Boy Beats, friend of the Discord, friend of the show, has like a little newsletter that he's like just starting to pump out. And he started off with quarterbacks, and in his like model that he put together, he has Anthony Richardson as his QB1. So I just keep getting more reaffirming information.
You reminded me what I was gonna say, which was I'm still, because I'm enjoying this year having a little bit more targeted player exposures, at least early on. And I keep delaying. I'm like, eventually I'll add, like with the Brick Draft Caddy overlay, to see my exposures. I like having that later in the year, but I keep delaying it because I'm like, I don't want to be impacted by being like, oh, I don't have much of this guy, I'll click this. Like, I want to keep hammering my convictions early in here and still, pack those bags before I start becoming a full-on diversification bro.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of the combinatorial ownership stuff last season, like taking it way too far. Like it was like a way too large part of my decision making when on the clock in fast drafts. So like I saw what Easy did, and then I applied that to baseball this season, and I think it's really interesting. I'll probably talk about it on a different BadgeBros show, just looking at like my advance rates at the moment, which we still have a lot of season left, versus like my exposures. And the top of my exposures have two like awful picks in MLB, but I have other picks below them that like are smashing, that are really buoying my advance rates right now in MLB, knock on wood that they hold. So I just think it's, just kind of highlighting like what can happen when you take stands. Like, yes, you can have some absolute like shitters there. They are late picks that are really bad, but the ones that do hit just kind of like they counteract it so strongly when they do smash.
I think that could be a really cool thought exercise, just like in general, to look at it completely agnostic of players. So just looking at what percentage allocated to like just put in player XYZ, like who cares who that player is, and run it cross sport, as you're saying. But then like removing everything about the player. I don't care about the archetype of a player. I don't care about whatever. And just seeing how an exploitative portfolio versus a diversified one just plays in a vacuum over a large enough sample. Like if we compare like baseball to baseball or football to football or football to baseball over the last 3 years, and just do it like where you block out all the names and you just do it with like allocation of ownership, allocation of your entire portfolio to said player, and then your advance rates, playoffs, your blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I guess to kind of, like do it blindly and see what has success over the years would definitely be.
It'd be like blind resume for like best ball, because it'd be like blind resume for the game type, not blind resume for the sport type or the player types.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
It'd be cool.
I don't know if it's anything actionable. I just think it'd be kind of a cool exercise once we just between you and I, we could have like a decent sample of.
Well, hashtag zoom out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like last year, I was very spread out. I think I had like one player over 20% when my BBM stuff was all said and done. And again, part of that was because I was streaming with guests, so a lot of my takes got like watered down across it, but I was pretty encouraged. Like I had pretty solid advance rates, and none of my like top players were smashes, right? Like I had a lot of Rashad Penny, I had a lot of JSN, I had a lot of players that were like fine but weren't smashes. And I'm like, man, even if it kind of got me in both directions excited to take more stands, but also still keep it within reason, knowing that like the portfolio can succeed even without a specific player level smash. But then you can really supercharge it if that top guy you're on is the league winner or whatever.
Did you look at your chart from leg up to see? Yeah, is there a lot of red on there?
No, so I'm in like, I think I was in like the 85th percentile for diversification. But again, partly because I streamed with so many people, so I was getting in so many styles, and it's kind of just how I reflexively do it. Like today, we were just drafting on the Swolecast, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I've taken a Derrick Henry share. The wide receivers are kind of off the board. I was like, I'll take a big dog share here and see how it works out. Like I have that mentality where I don't diversify in like every spot, but I kind of like each draft doing like one thing I normally don't do, and then building the teams I like to make around that idea.
Yeah. I tend to do that too, or at least I did that a lot last year. This year I have not been. I'm trying to kind of flex a little bit and just really beef up some of these exposures that I've already been like tacking on. But yeah, I will get there. I will get there. Got a long summer.
Nice.
Yo, are you guys referencing the most recent post from Sacrilegious, a dash of diversification one, when you said the chart and stuff like that?
Yeah, he has like a zip file of images of people's like the Jacquard diversification number visualized for everybody that maxed. I didn't max last year, sadly, so I gotta wait. I gotta wait for mine to come, but.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, no, I have the article bookmarked as like one to read later because I just haven't read it yet. But I was just wondering if that's what it was from. I don't know. Andrew brings up like the evergreen topic that is always layered on top of this topic is just like people are diversifying for all the wrong reasons, and it's like if you're diversifying for the sake of diversification's sake, then it's like a flawed endeavor. But if it happens organically when you're like focused on building within isolated rosters, then it's pretty cool. I don't know. This will be like the evergreen debate until we have like a full-fledged data set to work off.
Yeah, I would actually, if I don't know who that drafter is, but I would highly recommend reading those pieces from Sacrilegious, because I actually think I would counter and say people are undervaluing diversification, or maybe let's say undervaluing like the biggest selling point of diversification. Okay. And it's less like, oh, what if I'm wrong on this? Well, then I got this over here. It's actually more this idea about not competing with yourself. And he has lots of good examples from DFS, and, Brick75, one of the top DFS players I do a regular show with, he's talked about this too. Like he likes it when he sees people who have 4 lineups in the top 10 of DFS. He wants those guys to stick around because long-term, that's a suboptimal way to approach extremely top-heavy tournaments, because you're competing with yourself in there. And they do more simple and well-articulated thought experiments in the articles, but I highly recommend reading it because it will kind of open up your mind to why diversification, specifically in this format like the sprint or the marathon, is even more paramount than even in BBM.
Cool. That's interesting because like one of my little side notes that I had to make sure we got into the show was to give a shout to MLB winner from last night, because A. Rosen was the previous night where he had won the $100 contest, or he had won the winner takes all contest, and then he had finished like 2nd through 5th in the other one. And then last night we had this guy Bohica, great screen name, take down the $100 contest and take down 1st and 2nd with basically overlapping identical lineups in the baseball streets last night. Wow. So it's funny that it comes on the back of this conversation where it's like, those are the guys in theory. They're both very good players on our site, and maybe this is just by happenstance that they had overlapping lineups like this, but it's just funny to come on the back of a conversation where it's like, we're talking about diversifying and these guys smashed it daily without diversifying kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Like there's going to be what are the things too I think about, and you guys know this too, when we talk about like game theory optimal, you're often talking about like just over the course of massive sample sizes. And it's like you could be right, concentrating over 2, 3 years, 4 years or whatever. A lot of this is like the theoretical of, if we played these games for infinity and we never aged and we all got to freeze our brains and come back and keep playing these games, like you would want to do this for the rest of your existence. But yeah, you could probably get away with some shit over the next 5 years if you want.
Yeah. No, I got away with a lot of shit and then got ran out of the poker streets. That was like basically my MO. Oh shit. Should we talk about some specific scenarios and stuff, some stuff that we've been monitoring, and some potential scroll the F downs of the future? I think Nez, why don't you explain, because you kind of came up with the idea.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we have Pete's ultra successful video that we were featured on of scrolling the F down on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And part of the selling point for that was toward the end of draft season, as half the contest, so on, is already done with their drafts. Then you can figure out who is going to be truly unique that has a chance of cracking your lineup, maybe even getting there in week 17. So we just wanted to start to try to forecast what some of those situations might be as, training camp and preseason goes on. So I thought it'd be a pretty fun idea to look at some situations that look ambiguous and try to, get the crystal ball out, try to see what we're going to be scrolling to.
Love it.
Yeah. And I think this is fun because how we interpret this news, right? Because we do want to interpret it. I was kind of having an argument with Karain about this, because he was trying to get me on Eric Gray, because we now have Eric Gray running ahead of Tyrone Tracy. And kind of my pushback to him was, I want to process this news, but I want to process it through the lens of pumping the brakes big time on Tyrone Tracy. Yeah. And being like, he is less of a target than more so vaulting up Eric Gray. Because I said, I think you might run into a double whammy of Eric Gray, that situation is still probably being formed, right? Even the Giants probably don't know who their RB2 is. So you run the risk of Eric Gray not being the guy. And then on top of it, he's just a far less interesting profile, older player than Tyrone Tracy, probably less likely to be the guy weeks 15 through 17. And I don't want to be stubborn and just be like, Tracy, but I also don't want to just start slamming Eric Gray. To me, Eric Gray is final 3 weeks of Best Ball Mania season kind of pick, once it's so clear, almost like what Zach Moss was last year. But I still don't want to take on that risk this early. So I'm curious, how are you guys processing some of these nuggets?
I was laughing when you said that real quick, just because what you just said is exactly what I did with Zach Evans and Kyron Williams last season. I was taking Zach Evans, heard Kyron Williams buzz, well, let me just stop taking Evans. I'll just stop taking Evans. And I didn't pivot to Kyron as hard as I should have.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could apply that exact same analogy to another one that's ongoing right now that I had on my list with the Colts there, where Trey Sermon's getting hype as being the guy that's running, whereas most people were drafting Evan Hall in the big board kind of thing. So I do like the overarching thought process of pump the brakes before just completely pivoting one for one, because I do think we have to come back to the notion of taking zeros, especially at the running back position this early in the draft window, sinks rosters in a big way. So just trying to get ahead of that. I mean, what is your closing line value, even if Eric Gray becomes the RB2 for an offense that's going to score under 21 points in 12 weeks? What is the closing line value that you're going to get from that? So I think it's situation dependent, whereas I'd be more happy to, if we had bullish news on the Niners RB2, I would react differently than I would the Colts and or the Giants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the Colts one is interesting too, because the parallel there, not quite the same steam because he's not a rookie, but a lot of people have been drafting Evan Hull with, as hey, when I want to tack on that extra guy, he's my kind of go-to there. And now to me, that's firmly in question. Again, it's not necessarily that I want to start jamming Trey Sermon. It's all right, I'm not tacking on either of these guys to Colts builds until we get to the preseason and get really good confirmation.
Yeah, exactly. Let's highlight some of those other situations that you guys have been thinking through. I got a couple chalked down here, but Nez, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I was mainly looking at wide receiver situations for now. With the running back situation, I think you guys kind of touched on it perfectly, which is what made it difficult for this exercise for me to find anybody that would be a good option here, just because we just really don't know right now. And a lot of it is contingency based. But for one, what really got me wanting to talk about this conversation was just thinking about the Patriots pass catchers. I think there's a very good chance that the Patriots are not going to be a good football team. That's not the hottest take in the world, but we're drafting Jalen Polk as the wide receiver 1. And I think that there is a, like, if you were to bookmake the odds for who's going to finish with the most receiving yards in New England, I don't think it's going to reflect Jalen Polk's 35 ADP gap between Javon Baker and the rest of these guys. Yeah, he's got the draft capital and everything, but I just think there's so much ambiguity to this wide receiver room. Not necessarily a knock on Jalen Polk, but more specifically like the wide receiver 3 here, with KJ Osborne there and Kendrick Bourne there. Like, could Pop Douglas potentially fall out of favor? It just, to me, seems like there's somebody here that is going to receive a large percentage of the targets that we just have like no idea right now, and could potentially kind of leapfrog Pop Douglas or, even one of these rookies, depending on how camp news goes.
I just know it's, for some reason, it's funny to me that KJ Osborne has a slightly lower ADP than Juju. I would have thought for sure like KJ Osborne would have been ahead of Juju.
Probably like a difference of like 2 people drafting Juju versus 1 to KJ.
Well, the other thing is like, if we do think about some of these guys more just from their archetype as a receiver, like, to me, Juju now has obviously Polk, who I think can play inside a good bit. I think they want him to be kind of like an inside target earner. And then obviously DeMario Douglas, like, he feasted underneath too. So like, Juju seems the most blocked. I think it gets really interesting when you start talking about the outside guy, where we've seen KJ Osborne do that. I think Javon Baker profiles as a guy who can get loose down the field, make some big plays. And Kendrick Bourne has done kind of a little bit of everything. So it is fun, I think, to think through the lens of like, what role do these guys actually play on the field?
Yeah, I think it's a sharp way of looking at it. I think my biggest thing with this situation is like, I don't care. Like, like if I get CLV, on these back end guys, like, that's great. But like, what's the ceiling outcome from like the back end of these guys? Like 805, and maybe you get 2 touchdown, 14, 18 points in week 17 versus the Chargers. Yeah. So it's like it's a scenario where like, I think you could get like a little bit of like 20 picks of closing round value, or like, ADP value, but I don't think it's like one that I'd be like hyper targeting, but it's definitely an ambiguous one.
Yeah, I think for me, the one that I'm looking at the most here is like Kendrick Bourne. Like, if we see Kendrick Bourne being a certified wide receiver 1 in this offense, I'll probably do the boring thing and just take a guy that is like not like crushed, but done it, for multiple years in a system, and he's still in this system for a team that, for whatever reason, just seems to still be clinging to these Bill Belichickian like philosophies of really just kind of being hard as hell on rookies. So, I mean, they're talking about Drake May like they're like he's on like the roster bubble. It's kind of hilarious.
Wild.
Yeah.
The other thing, that I always come back to, like, and why I do think the market has this right as far as how it's ordered, is we've seen time and time again in these best ball tournaments, you can be wrong with these rookies and still be right. Right. It's the Pats, Tyquan Thornton. There it is. Pulled it up right there as it was coming out of my mouth. It's like even a guy like A.T. Perry, who I like, probably going to be a bust. Like, let's just be honest. I know people want to tack him on to Derek Carr teams, whatever, knock yourself out. But he had a really good game last year in week 17, because the teams say, all right, Javon Baker, say you couldn't get past DeMario Douglas and Kendrick Bourne this season, but then Drake May finally takes over in week 16 because Kraft calls up. Jared Mayo's like, no, you do actually have to play him eventually. And they're like, all right, let's toss Javon Baker out there for the final few weeks. It's like, you were dead ass wrong. Javon Baker wasn't good enough to get on the field, but then he gets a few deep shots and he ends up giving you a spike one of those weeks. Like, that's how it works with these rookies. So it is hard for me to like want to order it differently. But I do think, to John's point, it's like, yeah, when you get boxed out or when Baker goes way too high, like, you can still play it through those other directions.
For sure.
Good shit. One thing that I was just looking at earlier today, and while you were talking about this, what made me thought that it was just kind of organic that the Patriots came up at the same time. Our guy Connor Allen, who we hung out at that ship chasing stuff in Vegas last year, put out some good visuals for weekly winners and just like overarching like team totals and stuff like that. And maybe it played a little bit too much into my capitalizing on scroll the F down right now, because a lot of mine are actually coming from like these higher ones, just because I think there's like, more paths to points kind of thing. And then I just wanted to bring up like, if we just look at like scoring team totals, courtesy of the market right now, New England is the lowest of the bunch, and they don't have a single game projected for more than 21 points yet. Yeah.
Not good.
No,
Yeah.
not great.
Do you know what's funny? You pulling that up just gave me a flashback to last year, though. And I actually think it's a really good example because I had pulled up the similar projected Vegas total points average over week 15 through 17. In the Indianapolis Colts were, I want to say bottom 4 or 5. I have it in a spreadsheet somewhere. I could pull it up. And it's like, if you look at it that way, you're like, shit, we're drafting Anthony Richardson here in the 7th round. Like, how is this going to happen? And it's, again, I think an interesting difference between those totals and what Vegas is trying to accomplish with those versus what we're trying to accomplish with our rosters, where it's like, Drake May is the hinge point. If Drake May is this toolsy, faceted fantasy player that we think he is, then you like throw all that shit out the window.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, if you get kind of the bottom range or Jacoby plays for like 14 weeks or something, like then those projections might be accurate. But then it goes back to the best ball mania format again. And you're like, it doesn't even fucking matter for our purposes. I think if you're dialed in on your player archetypes and like who these guys actually are as players.
That same thing existed when Joe Burrow was a rookie. Vegas hated the Bengals, Joe Burrow's rookie season, if you were looking at that type of stuff. And then exactly what you said, Pete. But if that nut outcome hits, like you don't care. Like they are doing something different, that we're playing different games.
No, that's a good one. Next one I wanted to bring up, like this is probably going to be super chalky, is it's going to be Niners wide receiver 3/Niners running back 2. Just like if you get some closing line value on basically anyone from those spots as the scroll. But the reason I just wanted to state it or whatever, because we talked about it the other day there, Nez, when we were doing the news dropped in the middle of the baseball show yesterday that McCaffrey's signing might be like a strike against Ayuk or something coming back. I just wanted to bring it up just for 1 second, associated with Warren Sharp's like cap stuff here, that CMC signing is actually a bullish news for them retaining Ayuk and giving Ayuk money this year. So it kind of runs counter, like the actual money and the way the contract was structured gives us a more bullish outlook than we were originally anticipating there. So it was just one little nugget that I found when I was thinking about this. Anyways.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up for sure. It definitely takes my Ayuk to the Steelers cope and hope definitely takes a hit there with this news.
Yeah, this one is interesting. I have been selecting a little Eli Mitchell in the 18th round because he's there. I definitely want to be really fluid with this one because we've seen the Niners be pretty all over the place, both with their running back evals of rookies, famously like chasing guys up, the Joe Williams of the world, and then just like discarding them. So, but I do want to be aware of Isaac Guerendo. Like he is a freak, like one of the most athletic running backs we've had come into the league in a long time. And that obviously would have just very exciting ramifications in this offense. I haven't drafted any Guerendo yet. I'm doing a sprinkling of Eli Mitchell only in correlated fashion, not really as a one-off, mainly with Lions or Niners build. But how are you guys handling these cheap San Francisco running backs?
It's been Mitchell for me too. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so I'm the opposite. I've been with Guerendo. I've done the Guerendo in the 18th a couple times, like just like ceiling shot, and the fact that like Niners could be the best team in football and they could not punt 2 weeks in terms of rest, but punt 1.5 or something like that. And I think they want to keep like their second guy healthy. And I think Isaac Guerendo being like their third and their rookie in the same way that we saw Jordan Mason play in week 18 of last year could be like a bullish case that the RB3 is actually the week 17 guy that you need. Pretty effing gal brain. But yeah, the other one I saw earlier today was I saw Coach Speak Index hanging out in our chat here for a bit. He dropped one with Shanahan talking about just like CMC in a vacuum after the contract stuff, and to paraphrase, basically saying how they want to, take a little bit of that workload off of him So they're just another reason as to why nailing down San Francisco RB2 going forward will be a nice scroll.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was hard. I think it was kind of complicated last year to suss this out because Eli Mitchell was banged up as well, and it was kind of hard to tell, was the pendulum swinging to Jordan Mason as a preference by the team, or was that entirely driven by injury?
Right.
Like that's what makes it really tricky.
And I do think it was injury. And I'm just clinging on to these quotes from Shanny from like 2 years ago, whenever he just like could not stop talking about Elijah Mitchell and how much he just like loves this dude. So that to me, just like knowing that that preference is there, how stubborn will he be in the future for that RB2? I would probably advise to not cling to 2-year-old comments on a player. But I mean, it was like, seriously, man, like every press conference, he would just talk about how much he loves Elijah Mitchell. That's just like rent free in my head, just knowing that he at one point had an affinity for this guy.
I actually have 2 other players that are on this list that coaches clearly have affinities for. One being Jaleel McLaughlin and just what will come of that Broncos backfield situation. Like he just keeps catching steam, and then all the bullish coach speak there. And then the other one was Justice Hill. Justice Hill is a guy that they could have done away with so many times over, especially when he was hurt and stuff. And he just keeps finding his way back into our life over and over again. The team loves him there in the same way that they loved Devin Duvernay in the past.
Yeah, those one. Yeah, because I even saw, I know people are getting excited about this Rasheen Ali guy in Baltimore. And it's like, man, there's just so many ways that can go wrong, whether Keaton Mitchell's ahead of timeline, whether Justice Hill is actually the guy who we saw them trust in the playoffs. Like that feels like a very high risk of a 0 to me.
Yeah, I don't love that one. I don't love that one. He's being brought up a lot. And I'm like, there are like 4 running backs there, and one of them is the most efficient running back that like we've ever seen for a small period of time in Keaton Mitchell. And the other one is Justice Hill, who John just said everybody loves. And then it gets to Rasheen Ali. Didn't even mention Derrick Henry. It just feels really, really tough to make that case for me.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where I think, John, do you have any worry? Like, just not to double back to the Groendo thing, but like, I think his range of outcomes is equally wide, right? And I think that's the only problem with selling yourself the ceiling case for some of these exciting rookies, is because like the ceiling cases, you get the opportunity. And then like the uber ceiling cases, you're just like incredibly athletic or talented, which I think we all agree Groendo probably is from an athleticism standpoint. But like the risk of 0 is still equally high for any of these guys if we're wrong about their placement on the depth chart.
Yeah, 100%. Fully agree there. But then I think I could say the exact same thing about guys who go 4 rounds earlier, like Bucky Irving, like Vidal, like, that sort of stuff too. Like, I think the market right now is like a little too bullish on like, we know their positions on depth charts comparative to we don't know the guys at the back end on depth charts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fair too, because I was going to try to counter with the draft capital point with Bucky Irving, but Groendo was a 4th round pick too. So the investment level is there. I do agree though with someone like Kamani Vidal, where the investment wasn't there, and that backfield is wide open. And like, I buy both sides of the argument. Could he be this year's James Robinson? Totally could see that. Could he be just a complete 0 and like on the practice squad? Like, wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'll definitely be one to watch.
The chat right now is talking about Davis, and in Davis fashion, and in Hayden most recent, where he differentiates in rankings and players or whatever, is the CEH one. I don't know. I'm leaving, like, I've been a proponent of taking him right now in the 18th round and stuff like that. I think this one has I understand the bull case, former 1st round pick. He's still on the team, block out his name and you just say Chiefs running back too. But like, we were all rushing at the tail end of last year's draft season to get away from being the guys to draft CEH and get ahead of Deneric Prince, or even like even Jerick McKinnon was going in drafts in like 17, 16-ish range at the tail end. Keontae Ingram's on the roster there. Is there any chance like the CEH is just like the contingent value is not actually what we're drafting right now?
I think he's pretty clearly the RB2.
Okay.
Personally.
Yes. I do think like that's the entire selling point, is that we feel good about his spot on the depth chart as the RB2, but then like it ends there. We know CH sucks. We know that this team, is not, they are not a team that is going to just funnel points to the running back no matter what, right? Like if they have the personnel that lines up with what they want to do, like we saw with that Jerick McKinnon stretch or whatever, Isaiah Pacheco establishing himself as an interior runner, they're willing to do that. But it's like they're not going to force anything. Like they might, CH could have like a 75% snap share with Pacheco out and still just like average 5 fantasy points a game. Like the ceiling there, or when they get in the red zone, it's like, oh, well, then he'll vacuum up all the goal line touches. It's like, fuck no, they'd rather give Noah Gray like end around touches before they give CEH 1 yard, punch it. So that's the what you win when you're right with CEH is definitely hard. But like, yeah, if you feel good about where he is on the depth chart, then at least you feel you have a high degree of confidence that the contingent value is there.
Does anything to add?
No, I think that was a good topic, or good team to bring up.
I got a bunch more here, but someone else drop one here.
Yeah, this one will be like another like chalky one, but one that I've been thinking about a lot, and it's the Cardinals. And when you look at the Cardinals wide receiver room, specifically like the prices of them, like we all know Marvin Harrison's a wide receiver 1, but everybody's like throwing their hands up in the air for the rest of these guys. And man, I heard a lot of like the ADP chasing guys making like pretty strong cases for Dortch just based on like his role, and that like Zay Jones and Michael Wilson kind of do the same thing on the outside, where Greg Dortch is like that slot receiver. I think I would right now, if I was to like call my shot, I think I would take my chances on Zay Jones.
Okay.
I just think he's like for whatever reason, there's 2 things that are true about Greg Dortch. When Greg Dortch is on the field, he's good. Like he actually is good when he like gets the ball and they target him. He's good. The other thing that's true is they don't like to play Greg Dortch. They kind of do whatever they can to not put him on the field. So you kind of have to weigh these things equally. I am growing more bullish on Michael Wilson just because like he does have the chance to be number 2 in targets on a team with Kyler Murray that is probably going to be trailing a lot. But like Zay Jones had some pretty good seasons with the Jaguars, and I'm not like completely writing off Zay Jones at pick 190 here, especially with the Week 17 game against the Rams. But it will be interesting to see, like, I think this is one that I'm going to be glued to camp reports on to see, like, who is running with the ones the most here. And is Greg Dortch looking like he's a major part of this offense? Because if so, like, he immediately goes to, like, Michael Wilson range if the news is bullish enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up. Go ahead, Pete.
I was just going to say, again, going back to kind of like the archetype stuff, it does seem like Michael Wilson could be a little bit more insulated just as the outside guy, where Zay and Dortch are more likely. It's honestly like the comp here. It's pretty funny. It's like Greg Dortch is Demario Douglas. Zay Jones is like Kendrick Bourne if Kendrick Bourne wasn't coming off an injury. And Michael Wilson, I'll say, is like the Javon Baker here, where I think that's the Zay Jones versus Dortch is going to be like the battle worth watching. And we kind of know who Michael Wilson is as the big bodied deep threat.
Yeah. Which I guess like I can kind of make endorsements for all these guys, I guess, you know, like, especially at price, like, yeah, we don't know who's going to be the guy, but the potential number 2 in targets for the Cardinals goes in the 17th, 16th round, you know, and they're going I don't think this is going to be a run first team.
Right. Yeah. No. I think Michael Wilson's insulated by the fact that he's under team control for another like 2 years and is on a rookie deal, and he's like 4 years younger than everybody else. So if things go south on this season, like let's just see what we have in a 2 wide receiver set between him and Harrison, right? So if we're looking for that week 17 versus the Rams and whatnot, I think he's by far the safest. I think the fact that they brought in Zay Jones and gave him money and gave him not a huge signing bonus, but they gave him $500,000 in signing bonus, like makes it seem like they want him to like be a factor here. Pascal feels like kind of like he's like the biggest body of the bunch, but he feels like odd man out, but he is also due the most money of the group. And all 3 of these guys are expiring or all 4 of these guys are expiring contracts at the end of the year between Dortch, Jones, Moore, and Pascal. So like that's going to be, but I think like Michael Wilson's like clearly in that next tier above just because he's going to be a member of this team going forward. And then I think you guys bring up a really good point about like Dortch plays a different position. Yeah. I was just kind of going the hashtag follow the money route.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think the other kind of tough question I think about this is if Trey McBride continues to be who we think he is, and Marvin Harrison is who the market thinks he is based on where he's going, how much is left over for these other guys? I think is kind of the
sorry
real
for the McBride erasure. You know, that's was, apologies there. I know the chat has my head on a goddamn spike right now. My fault, everybody. I forgot about Trey McGronk, our very own Pick'em darling. You're not wrong. It kind of reminds me of like the Raiders a little bit. Or what the Raiders I think are going to look like, where last season it was just Devontae, Jacoby, and nobody else. Well, now it looks like Marvin Harrison, McBride. Now, how much of the pie, I guess, is left for the rest of these guys is the question.
Yeah, it's entirely fair there. I'd ask you guys, like, just straight up head to head, who has more receiving yards this year, Marvin Harrison or Trey McBride?
I mean, man, receiving yards, I think I go with Marvin Harrison. I'm willing to have the conversation about fantasy points, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And if it's oh man, yeah, no, I think Harrison paces and yards, but yeah, touchdowns. That's a different. Yeah, when you bring that in, different story.
Nice little pivot to the Vegas stuff that you just brought up there. I had Vegas wide receiver 3 and running back 2 on the list there because I do think it is pretty concentrated, at least on paper right now, between these 4, and they all go quite high. Given the fact that like the quarterback play might be suspect and the offense as a whole might be suspect, like just relative to how high their ADPs are, like how different will Vegas be in terms of scoring output over the entirety of the season, or even in an isolated week, call it week 17, versus like some of these other like bad teams that are considerably cheaper. I guess Devonta Adams pushes that ceiling a lot higher, but it's just an interesting conversation to have. But yeah, what were your thoughts there, Nez?
Yeah, I mean, I just had like Trey Tucker versus Gallup written down, both like insanely cheap, but probably one that if we see like really bullish news out of Gallup and like he's like firmly ahead of Trey Tucker in this offense, you know, he might end up being a backdoor week 17 stack in the 18th round. Gallup, that is. Tucker. Yeah. If it's Tucker, I find, no offense to Mr. Goodboy, I find that him a little hard to take. If it is end up being Trey.
Did you guys catch Reeves on Basketball Breakfast on Monday?
I did not know. What was
he was pounding he was pounding the table for Trey Tucker as one of the best late round picks. Yeah.
Not Reeves. Now I gotta completely throw my priors in the trash.
Yeah. He is the most underhyped day 2 draft capital player maybe ever in like our BBM like drafting era. Maybe not in the history of football, but it's like it's crazy, man. Like nobody even talked about him last year. Like he wasn't getting drafted anywhere last year either, and he was a day 2 guy, like around third round pick.
It is wild. Yeah. I am one of the guilty masses of just like erasing him from my memory.
I just did it on the show.
Let me ask you a question. Have either of you guys drafted Gardner Minshew on a team post NFL draft?
I've done it once, but I have an affinity for Gardner Minshew. But it was a 3 quarterback build where I completely punted. He goes every time in the super flex, but that's not saying
In the
much.
super flex.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, thinking back to our dailies last year, right? Like, there were a lot of weeks where Minshew was on the menu. Granted, he was a beautiful scroll the F down candidate, right? Because he'd be like QB9 projected on the week and was getting drafted in like 10% of those contests. So I think all of us probably ended up with a decent bit. But like, he was good in some of those games. We would talk about how the Colts were playing like with their pants on fire, and he was running a little bit, slinging it around. The weapons are good here. I don't know. I'm just trying to toss it out. Like, do we have a blind spot of like, should he be part of the QB3 rotation when you're doing Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy types?
I think when you do those types, yes. I mean, go ahead, John.
No, I think Bo Nix's job might be safer. I think that's the big looming thing with Minshew is just like AOC played half decent at the tail end of last year as well. Like they're kind of like more 1A and 1B in people's mind than like the rookies or Bo Nix or, you know, where we just think they're going to run away with the job or be handed the job eventually. But the fact that he got so much money and it's a 2-year deal, not a 1-year deal, kind of like feels Jimmy G-esque in terms of like it should be a bit safer.
I think the way I see it is like I do think that his job is not safe, right? Like he has a short leash, which like makes him uncomfortable to draft because we want him to be starting in the playoffs as well. But I think when you look at this Raiders team and the way that they came on last season, like you said, John, like in relation to AOC, I think that's more of like a reflection on the team itself with Antonio Pierce as the coach. Like they really rallied behind him and like believed that they were like a good team. And I think that you can kind of look at Gardner Minshew as the signing is like, hey, AOC, like you are now a backup. And like that kind of gives me confidence in Gardner Minshew being the starter the whole season. Cause I think this team believes that they can like compete and like actually make the playoffs. Like it was a night and day difference when they got McDaniels out and Antonio Pierce in there. I mean, you could see that in their actual gameplay and just the way that they talked in press conferences and everything. Like this team like believes in themselves. So to me, that's kind of a bullish stance on Minshew because Minshew has an actual rapport of doing it, even though he is a journeyman.
Yeah. And I think maybe there's, you know, scenarios, or I should say alternate realities where the draft board has these quarterbacks pushed up more and like Gardner Minshew becomes more of like a necessity, but you don't really have to take on that risk right now. Like you could take Bryce Young, who you know is probably going to play the entire season without like late season bench risk. And so why even take that on? But I just wanted to, you know, experiment with that because it's like if Devontae Adams doesn't lose a step and Brock Bowers is him and we're getting some spike week guys from Trey Tucker, they still have fucking Jacoby Myers. They don't have a great running back room. If they just like sling it around, like this could be like we could be double stacking this team in dailies like right off the rip.
Okay. I don't want to get too excited here, Pete.
Hold on, who do they play week 1?
It's only June, bro.
Let's see who they play week 1.
I'm already getting excited about NFL dailies.
Oh, you already know.
For sure. Well, I was having low-key PST because of GA's comment in the chat here that Minshew on redacted only. I'm trying to think. Minshew might have been one of my highest played cash quarterbacks over the last 2 years on redacted because he was 4K min. I can think of 3 weeks where he was 4K min where he came in and was just like an auto put in.
Yeah.
Fantasy the fantasy pound, where is he? Where'd he go? The dog pound. Yeah, man, we got 320 of us watching right now and we only got 34 likes. Like the calculator's broken. Do us a favor, press that like button and stuff because we be scrolling out here. Boys, I got a couple more here. I had the Raiders one on that one. Bills wide receiver room, a little hat tip to our guy, the Gritty, some bullish Chase Claypool news running 12 asides with Mitchell Trubisky. There,
I'm rooting for the Gritty so hard. I want him to stuff every one of these guys in the lockers.
Listen, I talked about this with John yesterday, but like hat tip to us for like, you know, do you remember a few shows ago I was telling you guys, I was giving you guys the good word of hit him with the Gritty 18 and what he did last season. People are just now catching on. If you know, religious watchers of the show know we've been known about Gritty. He's an absolute legend. And how can you not root for the guy?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This room, I've just not been clicking a lot of any of these guys. I'm trying to boost my Kincaid exposure up a little bit because he's like a blind spot in my elite tight end portfolio, just kind of by accident.
Yeah.
And do not get a lot of Keon Coleman. Do not, like, occasionally if I have Josh Allen, I'm like, fuck, I'll take one of Curtis Samuel or Khalil Shakur. And I don't know. I'm struggling with these guys. It just like the ADPs, the talent profiles, it's like not lining up for me in a way that feels good. I feel like you have to force these selections.
I really wonder what their pass volume is going to be like this season. You know,
point.
like they kind of ran the ball a decent amount last year.
As soon as Joe Brady took over, they were run first, like one of the most awful pass rates in the league.
Yeah, and then you had Ray Davis, who like I mean, I'm bearish on rookie running backs, but I mean Ray Davis sort of, when you watch him play in college, kind of fits the bill of a guy that, like, you know, if they're going to run the ball a lot, then Ray Davis is probably going to be a guy that's, I mean, they did it with James Cook, and James Cook was like fourth in the NFL in rushing yards. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Even with a Josh Allen start, it's hard to get to these guys. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't feel good. And I don't know if it's, maybe these guys are priced correctly and I need to get around to it, but I just think the market just has these guys bumped up a little too much for my liking.
There's a non-zero.
I was just gonna say, like, unironically, I'd rather be doing the gritty with Chase Claypool in the 18th round than chasing these other guys up, like, you know, where I feel like they're 2 rounds overvalued.
Yeah, I was just about to say Keon Coleman has a non-zero chance to be one of the worst ADPs on the board, like just straight up.
Unfortunately.
Very much so.
Yeah. The other one, another little nugget here was our guy, puck guy, normally a puck guy, DJ Mitchell, gave us some Bills meta as a Buffalo guy there, that he was playing golf with members of the staff. He did not say who, but members of the organization. And they said Khalil Shakur has been like low key, just like the front runner behind closed doors for almost everything.
I would buy that.
Yeah.
I'll take anything at this point.
Yeah. I had read, there was a beat report, one, and again, like, take it with a grain of salt, but the beat was saying like Curtis Samuel is going to be the most consistent presence in the offense after Dalton Kincaid, which I would also buy too. Like, Curtis Samuel is, again, one of those guys who have just been good through a lot of situations, even back to Carolina. Obviously was like the top pass catcher last year for the Commanders down the stretch. So that would not shock me at all. And we've seen the Bills have that role. They've loved collecting these slot receivers, back to the Cole Beasley. They've done the Jamison Crowder stuff. Like, that guy can eat in this offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good shout. And I mean, like, with all the stuff that's been put on tape over the last couple of years between Miami and Kansas City with the motion stuff and San Francisco with the motion stuff, doesn't Curtis Samuel just feel like the perfect archetype of veteran free agent to bring in to, like, basically run that as like the budget version of those motion plays? And I think Joe Brady's like a smart coordinator too. So, like, give him some I don't know. It's hard to give, like, coaches, like, what's the phrase that we always use, Des? Where
They're
we
flowers.
say, like, yeah, but like they're whatever, who cares? Yeah, give them their flowers.
Of rational coaching.
Yeah, assumption of rational coaching. Thank you. It's been a minute since we did it daily.
I'm just glad we don't have to draft Isaiah McKenzie anymore on this team. That's
seriously,
all.
That's the other guy. Fellas, I do have to run to a meeting, but you guys have my blessings to rip a beautiful, correlated, gorgeous draft with no Evan Hull or Eric Gray on it.
We'll do our best.
All right, peace, guys.
Peace, Pete.
Peace, Pete. All right, Nez, let's go here. I have let's jump into draft in 1 second here. I have 3 more. Is there anyone that you are dying to get off your chest?
No, I think one of the teams that I think I'm most interested in, and then besides just like highlighting like completely ambiguous wide receiver 3 situations that may or may not matter, I think the next one for me is just the Eagles. and that wide receiver 3 there, because we've been doing the Quez Watkins things forever. RIP Quez. Now we've got Johnny Wilson, who is an absolute freak. Anaya Smith, everybody's
bench press
favorite.
kid.
Yeah, and then lo and behold, here's Paris Campbell, who, like, I tell you what, man, I'm not doing it. I could talk if this was like 2 years ago, and in 2 years of me here, I'd be drafting a lot of Paris Campbell on the Eagles. I would be ecstatic to draft Paris Campbell on the Eagles. I wouldn't be shocked if it turns out that he's like running as in 3 wide receiver sets all the time on this team, when when it's all said and done.
Okay. I mean, leave the light on. I can't fight it, man. Like, if you want to go professional veteran wide receiver as your rotational third, that it makes a lot of sense, especially to bring these rookies along slowly when you're a win now team. You gave a whole bunch of money to both your 2 wide receivers and your running back for this year. This team is all about winning right now. So who can run routes as the third wide receiver on the field that is the cleanest associated with this team? You're probably right. Does it mean we get to him in BBM right now? Probably not. But in terms of late in the season, if we find out he is kind of like WR3, would you rather him, or would you rather the contingent ceiling shot of some of these back end ones? I added good UW boy John Ross, who's getting a part-time tryout onto the list.
I mean, I'm praying for bullish Johnny Wilson news, mostly for my big board bags, but praying that wow, Johnny Wilson is wowing in camp. Johnny Wilson running with the ones, that seems like a sexy Quez Watkins, give me just a wide receiver 3 for the Eagles that I can believe actually has a chance of scoring 10 fantasy points at any given week. And Quez Watkins was just never that, but always was the wide receiver 3.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is Quez Watkins' output negatively correlated with that of Dallas Goedert. So for historical purposes, Dallas Goedert has just been their WR3 when someone has missed time, and then he vaults into that next level role there as well. So yeah, I mean, maybe the answer is always just Dallas Goedert has the most contingent upside, but that's not scrolling the F down far enough. As I had the Browns backfield right now, we've all declared that Deonta Foreman is kind of going to be the early week guy. There was some beat report stuff and interview of Nick Chubb today where he's I have no timeline, it's indefinite, blah blah blah. They traded a pick last year for Pierre Strong. Are we discounting Pierre Strong too soon?
Kind of forgot about Pierre Strong. I don't think he's a factor.
Okay.
I think Jerome Ford was doing enough good things last year that hey man, let's just say, let's talk about the situation where Nick Chubb we get bearish news on Nick Chubb's timeline. Mm-hmm. How quick does he flip Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, that is, if that takes place? I've been taking a lot of Jerome Ford lately.
Okay, so the way that you articulate that is kind of implying that Chubb would go on the pup to start the season. And it's probably safe to assume he's going to start the season on the pup as is right now. So maybe we should just be pushing forward 10 plus picks as is.
Yeah, because I think he's going to have that standalone value to start the season and maybe goes away. I mean, he's not a fantastic talent, but
people were really excited about him last year. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a decent pass catcher. We saw it on display last year. He was not great between the tackles. Smarter people than me have some good metrics out there about that sort of thing, and I think that's why they've addressed that, and they addressed it in season as well. As soon as Chubb went down, they did make the Pierre Strong trade. So maybe they just think that Deonta Foreman, and this is assumption of rational roster construction, again, that Foreman is just kind of oh, that solves all our problems there that we thought we had, because we didn't like what we saw at the end of the year from Pierre, and we saw that Ford is primarily a pass catching guy.
Yeah, exactly. I think those roles make a ton of sense, which then could give Foreman a bit of a boost too, depending on what kind of news we get.
Yeah, so maybe Pierre Strong is a bridge too far there. The last two I had, Nez, were the Saints for both the RB2, because we are kind of just like taking Miller right now, and I don't see anyone really take Jamal Williams, 2 years removed from leading the league in touchdowns, and coaches love him just in general as like a human being and a player that they have on teams. And then the other part of that is Cedric Wilson is on this team as quote unquote professional wide receiver on the backside there. And Equanimeous St. Brown, brother of Amon Ra. Did I say that? Amon Ra St.
Yeah.
Brown. I just fumbled over my words for half a second there. And then Bub Means as a rookie there, who Pete put in one of his videos. Yeah. Any clarity here? Any interest? Any scrolling for you at these positions?
No, but it's something that I had written down too, of like a lot of ambiguity at the wide receiver 3 here. And I do think A.T. Perry is going to be the guy, but I mean there's definitely no conclusive evidence to make us think that. But Jamal Williams, though, I totally agree with you on that one there. I don't think like the best thing Kendra Miller showed us was like in the preseason when he made a diving catch. Point me to other evidence if there is some. I'll gladly change my tune. As I had a lot of Kendra Miller last year, and I think people like quickly forget Jamal Williams being back there as like a back that teams would trust if like anything happened to Alvin Kamara or just at the goal line. They might end up using Jamal Williams at the goal line potentially as well. And I think what this kind of go ahead.
Yeah, just before you go to the wide receiver there, this team is, yes, quote unquote, like bad in parentheses, but like from a real life football perspective, like the team that won the NFC South last year had 9 wins. Now, are the Falcons like way more improved and the Bucks are basically the same as they were last year? Yeah, but like that, I think from like a real life football lens, they think they can contend this year.
Yeah. And Derek, it's Derek Carr. He's not.
They give him a lot of money too.
He's not bad, but he's obviously like not great. But I think he can provide some fantasy relevant seasons. It's just a matter of like one of these guys like emerging, obviously. And I was just gonna say, I think this kind of leads us to maybe Juwan Johnson potentially being a little undervalued. I know everybody's very bullish on anytime Taysom Hill is mentioned in the media, but I think Juwan Johnson as a pass catcher becomes odds-on favorite to maybe Kamara third in targets, maybe even second in targets. But Juwan Johnson definitely in the mix.
Yeah. What about our boy Tommy Hudson?
Only when I'm tilting.
Oh man, no, the reference to the draft being thrown out. Foster Moreau on there as well. I respect it, man. Yeah, maybe Juwan Johnson is the answer to who is the best WR3 in this spot, but you kind of like A.T. Perry there, and then just kind of like leaving the light on for Jamal Williams to not be completely forgotten, man. One other name, Noah Brown. I know they added Diggs, but Noah Brown played very well last year. He is their best blocking wide receiver, or at least he was last year. There's a reason to think that Noah Brown could still get on the field at times for Houston, but contingent upside of a scroll the F down who no one is getting to. I mean, I've seen dumber clicks than just tacking this on to like the third guy on your Shroud stacks.
Yeah, no, I think Noah Brown's definitely somebody worth like remembering because of like the fact that CJ Stroud made him a thing. Obviously, you need a lot of things to happen for him to make the field. But when Tank Dell's the wide receiver 3 there, like you said, there's a chance that they could be opting for a big body guy like Noah Brown. And, unfortunately sending Tank to, not irrelevancy, but a lot less routes run, which like has me scared. And I don't even want to think about because Tank was so awesome last year, but the writing is certainly on the wall for Tank to like not be worth his cost at all. But I hate thinking about it because I like him so much.
Yeah, likewise. Like, I mean, like these are like so deep dive scroll the F down. Like nobody's ever going to project like, oh yeah, Noah Brown's going to like outplay Tank or Noah Brown's going to like nobody's expecting anything remotely close than that. It's just like a completely like scroll down last guy in. Yeah, I mean like Ben Skoranek, another name there too. Yeah, like why did they trade for him?
What did
Yeah,
they give up for Ben Skoranek? I didn't even know that they traded for him. I'll have to look that up.
that's a good question, actually. Yeah, but anyways, they're just taking all the old. They're taking all the old Rams wide receivers in Skoranek and Robert Woods. It's just for bit equity. The other one I was thinking of is Miami, and we see Odell go. Sometimes we see Washington go. Sometimes there. We definitely had River Craycraft games last year. We definitely had Braxton Berrios games. Jonnu Smith getting some big camp love right now. There was like a Coach Speak Index one yesterday, I believe, where they were talking about him as like being a yak monster, blah, blah, blah. So maybe the answer is Jonnu becomes a more valuable tight end 3 or tight end 2.5 in our BBM format. But is there any reason to go scrolling for contingent value at, a team that we expect to play fast and put up points?
Just to start, the Jonnu Smith price I think is ridiculously low right now, and I love Jonnu Smith in drafts. And I think if you listen to what Mike McDaniel's had to say, you'd probably agree. And I mean, I know Coach Speak is Coach Speak, but what he said kind of gave me confidence in like using Jonnu Smith, because we're talking about going from Durham Smythe to Jonnu Smith, and what McDaniel's was saying was like, when he talked about how he had the pleasure of coaching like a lot of like really talented offenses, but one thing that they always did was like working to their strengths and using like what you have in different ways. Like Jonnu Smith has a much like Jonnu Smith has a resume of like doing things offensively. He did it in Atlanta at, as much to our dismay, at the against Kyle Pitts, but he did it in Tennessee too. Jonnu Smith he's not a bad football player. And I think, Durham Smythe has either like find me a Durham Smythe highlight. One highlight. I can show you, I can think of a few. More than a few for Jonnu.
Well, we talked about it last year, how he was like, he was on the field for like 100% of snaps and stuff like this. And we're like, eventually he's just going to fall into the end zone when they score like 8 touchdowns, right?
And it just, more snaps.
Just never happens. Yeah.
He was like running a larger percentage of snaps than Tyreek Hill some weeks. It was crazy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, he's also like, Jonnu does it all, right? Like he's a decent football player. Like, I like Eli's quote here in the chat. It's like, if you don't love Jonnu, you just don't know ball, because it's like, Arthur Smith was kind of like the common factor between both the Tennessee stuff and the Atlanta stuff. But like now he's in a system that could be creative with his versatility, because you remember how tilted we used to get. First of all, they used to do the Tanny dives at the goal line when you played Derrick Henry and that sort of thing, and you'd be pissed off about those. But people forget that they used to do Jonnu Smith as the up back and do like inside handoff with Jonnu Smith, or they did end around with Jonnu Smith at the goal line too. So he used to get carries in Arthur Smith's offense in Tennessee. So we know this dude's like decently athletic, and like a sharp team like Miami is going to be like watching this stuff, being like, okay, yeah, that's going to probably play well off of like a counter to the jet motion that we run with Tyreek, right?
Yeah, seriously. Like everything going on with the offense and like how spread out that Miami makes a defense, and then you just like give the ball to Jonnu for an easy 5 yards. I think that applies to Malik Washington. Now I think he's going to need a lot to go. I mean, he's going to have to be like way better than people think, or Odell Beckham is obviously dust, but like, probably contingency, like an injury to Odell for Malik to actually see snaps. But he is just like, of course, like he goes to the Dolphins, right? He's only 5'8", but just like an athletic freak. The chance to have some big plays, but as far as like consistency or anything goes, it's tough. But I do have a Malik Washington share in BBM right now. I think I have one.
I think that was early on. As part of a Tua triple, where it was just like, what if he's the guy who scores a touchdown in week 17 there? I like 2 of these things in the chat here. A fair bear case against the Jonnu stuff is the fact that they turned Mike Gesicki from a 70 catch guy into a 20 catch guy. Whether that's a reflection of Gesicki's talent level relative to the offense last year, I don't know. But like, just an interesting nugget to add to that. And then Brad bringing up one that the 1 week season guys, shout out to our guy Mark there, always bring up is the fact that Jonnu had the second fastest top tight end speed last year on a one long touchdown that he scored there. So just some cool little nuggets in the chat from some smart people.
Love it.
I guess we can't do the last two. I would just say we don't have to go through them. Was just Lions WR2/3. I think a guy like Khalif Raymond has a lot of room to rise there, or like Donovan Peoples-Jones, who they traded for last year, could have room to run because Lions are projected to score the second most points. I mean, this is all just like mean outcomes of Vegas and whatnot. But remember the chart that we had last week for weekly winners. They had like 9 games where they were expected to have totals north of 48. They're going to play inside. They play San Francisco in week 17. So I think Lions WR2/3 rolls to nail down. Those will have some definite scroll the F down potential there. And then Chargers, wide receiver 2, 3, and tight end 1, I would also add, of wide receiver for Chargers is wide up for grabs there. So I think some bullish scrolling opportunities there for kind of like undervalued assets in decently projectable offenses.
Yeah, good shot with the Chargers. They're definitely one that I'm paying close attention to, and I've already done some DJ chart clicking. But definitely something that I want to pay very, very close attention to as we get later into draft season. Because part of why I don't like clicking Herbert right now is like stacking him just feels gross and nasty. But for now I'll do a little naked Herbert. I don't give a fuck. Herbert at 130 is just like insane. So we'll get him naked as a QB2 if I really, really need to. But yeah, excited to figure out what's going on with the Chargers so I can get a little bit of them in my portfolio, because I don't think they're going to be a bad team. It's just a matter of who's going to actually be involved in the offense. And, maybe it is just Ladd and I need to just like take my medicine, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but there's also a non-zero chance that they bring Ladd along slowly, and he is the guy that ends up with like 600 yards and 4 touchdowns and isn't that relevant, and he doesn't have a spike week during the finals and whatnot, and it's the outlier production from the tight end. Like, how many 2 touchdown games have we seen in our lifetime from Donald Parham, right? Like, and Donald Parham becomes like more valuable than the wide receiver 2 and or 3 on a given week for the Chargers, right? So just in terms of range of outcomes, wide receiver room is also very interesting. Running back room is also very interesting there, as Sags brings up in the chat. And GA, man, we play higher lowers around here, so I'm not respecting these over remarks, man. Yeah. Anyways. Let's hop in one. Nez, what would you like to do today? Would you like to do BBM? Would you like to do Superflex again? Would you like to do something else?
I'm kind of open for anything. If we want to like give the chat a second to give us some thoughts, perhaps, unless you have a strong opinion.
I think the context of the show lends itself to BBM, but I will give the chat. I'll give the chat like I'll give the chat 1 minute to get ready here. BBM, Superflex. There's 2 votes.
Gosh,
we're split.
Please no Superflex. Somebody say something else. The Mastiff.
The Sprint. Trev wants to see how rich I am.
Maybe just.
Am I rich enough for the Mastiff? No Superflex. BBM. Marathon. BBM. BBM's the leader in the clubhouse right now. No Superflex. No Superflex is basically a vote for BBM. Okay, sounds like BBM. We get another BBM vote. All right, we got tons of BBM votes. Here you go. Clicking right now. Oh, we got 10 spots for the chat. This is perfect. This is perfect.
Everybody
get in here,
chance.
BBM.
Look at this. Oh, wow. I tell you what, John. That's nice for the ego.
That was quick.
I needed something like that. I needed to see us snap fill a BBM lobby. I was feeling a little down about myself, get my ass kicked in the baseball streets. I'm back up, baby.
Friends and family, here we go. Yeah, this is more of a Pete does the best ball breakfast. We're more of a best ball brunch crowd around here, leading into our choice between BBM and BBC streams. All
right, man. Take a chill pill. All right, I'm not sure. I got to flag this podcast as explicit now.
Man, we got some familiar names in here. Let's do this. Matty G,
102.
B Spurf, Fully Loaded, Tilted Bob, Sergeant Sweeney. Holy smokes. I know a bunch of these. Ben Roethlisberger, we know him. Yeah, here we go.
I love that name. That is that's the best. That reminds
Yeah.
me of I think I've mentioned this before, but my buddy that I play on Sleeper with for managed leagues, his name is Big Ben Rules with a Z.
Nice.
God, man, it's just the most hilarious man ever.
Nez, we're gonna have an interesting decision here because CMC goes number 1 here. Are we worried about CD Lamb holding out of mandatory minicamp right now? Are we going to push anyone above CD Lamb right now?
CD Lamb's getting paid.
Okay, does not
Just
matter
take
to
him.
you.
No.
All right.
In fact, I've been seeing CD Lamb go over CMC so much that and I think I kind of talked about this too already. That yeah, CD Lamb, I think I'm going to continue to take over CMC for the time being.
Bullish. Ooh, Jameer Gibbs.
Let's
Flipping the board,
go,
baby. I love it. I respect it. I respect it.
the
Get your
hell out of that.
guys season.
I don't think there's many guys that have, ceilings like the makes of these guys that go in the first round at running back. I really don't.
Interesting.
And I would exclude JT and Saquon from that conversation. Maybe hot take, maybe yes, maybe no, but they don't seem like week 17 winners to me. I don't know, man.
All right. Okay.
Feeling spicy.
People are quick to forget that JT was going 1-0-1 over Christian McCaffrey 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was. Does Anthony Richardson still in diapers when that happened?
He might have been. He very well could have been. Yeah, this is a wild one here. Here we go. Oh, we got a special guest joining back in.
Give him a second. Give him a second. You can't like show Pete without production. It's like, him without makeup, so let's make sure he gets everything set up. There we go.
I was like, my meeting ended. I was like, oh, they'll probably be in like the 12th round and I'll hop back in this draft. We made one pick.
We went through all 32 teams and just like talked about I went on a Calvin Austin rant for 20 minutes. Just kidding.
What did you guys do for those 30 minutes? I was going.
We talked a lot about Miami. We waxed poetically about Jonnu Smith and Mike McDaniel's latest comments.
Oh, I thought you meant Miami, like the dog bowl. I was like, you guys are out here reminiscing about the dog bowl for 30 minutes right now.
No, I don't need an ego boost that bad.
All right, Pete.
What contest are we in?
We are in a
Mania
BBM.
5.
We let the chat vote what we were going to try and draft, and we got a friends and family room because there was 10 open spots there. And Jameer Gibbs just went at 103. It's get your guys season.
Flip the board, bro.
Damn right. Damn right.
That's exactly what he said.
That is exactly what we said.
Good. Show everybody how smart you are and how awesome you're doing.
We gotta look. We gotta see if we have a chance here. Oh, there's our guy. Look at this. Andrew's hanging out in the chat. Andrew's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's all over this thing.
Yeah, Pete, you talk about duping yourself in DFS. It seems to be kind of like the meta in these BRs, man, for baseball. You see it a lot where like it's like the winner typically is on the leaderboard like multiple times. Up towards the top 10.
Do you think do people auto MLB teams?
Yes, but they kind of do like they kind of set up guide rails and see what pick they get, what pick they start with, and what stack they're going to line up for a team, and then they'll push the plane and then move on to the next draft. Typically,
gotcha.
But the beautiful thing about baseball is like it's so far from solved. Like,
oh my God,
we've seen 4 stacks plus a one-off win. We've seen 3 2s win. We've seen 3 1-1s. We've seen a whole bunch of one-offs win. It's so fun, like just like the random on a night-to-night basis. I'd be shocked if he doesn't take Debo here, huh?
I would be ecstatic if he doesn't take Debo. Let's
go.
Let's go, man. This is awesome. Having fun.
Having fun.
I'm having fun.
see what old Bob does.
It's
over
like
here.
That's what like April, she's starting to like string together words and she'll just be like, she'll now just say 3 things in succession. She'll just be like, door open now. Like she just like no flow. It's like, all right, I hear that.
So close to a sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
How old is she now? She's almost 2?
No, almost 18 months.
18 months. There you go.
Yeah.
Is this guy
All right.
auto?
We got the Tilted Bob's probably hanging out. Oh, Cooper Cup
Ooh.
flipping the
What's
board
going
here.
on in this room?
We're having some fun. Yeah.
We encourage everybody to get their guys, scroll down so we can just take the top of the queue every single time.
Yeah, I mean, we get clowned when we take the top of the queue, but it's like when the room does the scrolling the F down for you. Do you guys have a pick here between Kyron, HN, any of the wide receivers?
I've been pushing HN and Williams when I have later slots just because they're now falling to like mid-third and later in some cases, but I'm fine with any of these guys.
HN or Laporta?
All right, let's do HN then.
I don't do Laporta really, but I was thinking since we kind of had the Lamb Debo start, it could kind of afford to take a little reach down for the correlation.
I've noticed in like the Laporta pick to me also feels like it's funny because they're both 3rd round picks, but it's like the running back pick or the Laporta pick in 3rd round. I've been struggling with because like sometime in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round, I'm going to love a running back or tight end value.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then I'm like, man, I do the 2v2 and I'm like, I'd really wish I had DJ Moore on this team, like instead, and just flipped it around. Like I have that thought so many times.
Especially when you get a stacking out for a lot of the wide receivers that go right here at 26, because you can get a Geno backstack, you can get a Caleb backstack, you can get the Daniel Jones one. I mean, Laporta does open that up with the Goff stuff, but it's a little more expensive.
Right. Yeah. Goff's price is kind of tough. I mean, it's not bad, but like
he's moving this like this. Him and Caleb are moving like this toward each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like right now, when I draft teams, man, like I feel like I almost can't do anything but 0 RB. I've tried not doing 0 RB, and maybe I need more reps. But man, oh man, do my teams feel dead on arrival when I do anything other than like 5 wide receivers in the first 6 or 7 picks. It just feels like it can't be done in this landscape right now. I know that that's not 100% correct, but I'm sure you guys feel somewhat similar.
Yeah, I mean, I've been messing around with like I just did a build on the Swolecast, right, where I did Derrick Henry, Kelsey, Mahomes. So 3 and like I was fucking scrambling. I'm flicking Mike Williams there. I'm like, you're just trying to recover at wide receiver the whole time. I do think there are guys you can recover with. I still love that pocket of rookies who go from like 140 to 160, where you get in the Jermaine Burton, Polk, Pearsall, those guys. Like there's some ways to make it work, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. Like, man, I want 5 wide receivers before like the 8th round.
I do a lot of good.
No, sorry, I was just kind of clicking through some of these hound dogs that I was doing as the slows there to see if I was kind of in lockstep with you. Yeah, I'm stealing his bit now. There's 4 running backs through. Well, I guess that's 11 rounds. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I do a lot of. I love to revisit my old teams from last season and see what I did wrong and probably like way too broad of a brush apply that to my my drafting for the current season. The one thing that I feel like I did is I think I leaned too far away from like the wide receiver meta last season, where like I just looked at some of my teams and I'm like, man, like just not enough wide receiver capital done. Like yes, quantity wise, I was doing fine, but where I was like getting them, it just the late round wide receivers for me didn't look like they panned out quite as well. And my best team last year that I thought had a real shot in BBM last year was like a 0 RB team that I snuck Justin Jefferson through. That had like Josh Allen on it and like a late James Cook. That was like the best team that I had. And I was like, oh man, like this is, and it looked good. Like I looked back at the draft board and it made sense, So yeah, I'm capitulating hard right now.
I mean, like, it's a fun exercise, but like to take too much from it feels like so gross. Like that's the equivalent of looking at like last night's baseball leaderboard and being like, "Hey, 4-1s won all the money last night. Guess
Yeah.
today I'm only drafting 4-1s." Like, you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah. I
it's
fully
like
recognize that it's flawed. I fully
Yeah.
recognize that it's flawed.
Like anecdotally, it's a fun narrative, but it's like it's just there's so much noise in it, right? From year over year samples.
Yeah.
Just one slate, Nez. It's just one slate. Oh, all right. We're coming back up here. I have no ranks loaded in, just FYI right now. I was drafting off Easy's ranks most recently. I was having some fun with those ones, just seeing like the difference
And then
between
you had
the
way
leg
too much
up and
Derrick
easy.
Henry, and you're like, let me get these out of
Getting your
here.
George Pickens shares in there.
Yeah, George Pickens ones are pushed up for sure in those ones. Yeah, same thing, Henry. I did notice myself taking a good amount of Henry in those 6 slows there.
I'm just
like, Hollywood
sweating this. Yeah, John,
Ooh,
I didn't know what you were talking about there whenever you were like you posted that picture of Hollywood. I thought you knew that took place.
No, I didn't. Should we go for the Lamar Andrews? Should we try it?
Yes, but I've now changed, and I think you go Andrews here first is how I've been playing it.
Okay.
If you want that stack, I just think it's I think people are less likely to do because we only have one guy behind us, right?
Yeah, and he's too.
Yeah, and he's doing his own thing.
Yeah,
that's true. That was the nicest way to say that when you take Cooper Kupp. He's doing his own thing.
Beat of his own drum.
That's like live a little. It's such a nice PR way to say, like, what the fuck were you doing at the end of the second round?
I'm the king of not hurting feelings.
That's why you and I go so well together.
It's very true. Okay, yeah, he's got Terry.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, he's really doing his own fucking thing.
Yeah, he's really doing his own thing. Yeah.
We know who Tilted Bob is too. He's in one of those group chats, I think.
Get ready to learn Rashad Bateman, Bob.
That was pure bit equity. Probably feels like wide receiver to me.
Yeah.
Allen.
Yeah. Keenan, Hollywood.
Same. I'm fine with either.
I think I prefer Keenan.
Let's do Keenan. Yeah. Gives us Caleb also on the menu.
Oh yeah.
It's funny to see how more expensive the Mahomes stack has been because you used to get that Mahomes stack at like 5-6 where you take Mahomes first and then one of the wide receivers would wrap behind, and now you have to do it on this corner if you want to do it, kind of thing, because the wide receiver doesn't fall.
Yeah.
It was Hollywood.
Yeah. See, I like that we got the Keenan pick there. Like that feels nice getting that. The Hollywood versus Keenan. I mean, I was coming into draft season being the Hollywood Bowl, but I mean, I don't think I could ever do Hollywood over Keenan. Not that took place here, but I think that would require me to take a step back and just like putting more weight into guys that have better track records. You know, I think that's always been a major tiebreaker for me this season, which has led me to a lot of DeAndre Hopkins and a lot of Calvin Ridley right now, just based on like what these guys have done in years past.
Does anyone know? I'm thinking about this in terms of like ceiling outcome for wide receivers, like with that in mind. Do you know what like the maximum amount of catches from one pass catching corp that had like 3 guys in it could be? Like, is there any range of outcome where like Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome all catch north of 80 passes?
Yeah, maybe, but it's like you need what was it that Peyton Manning year when it was like Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, and Julius Thomas, the tight end, or something like. But that's like I can more see that from like the CJ Stroud, right? Just the trajectories on. I think Caleb in year 1, that is harder for me to envision.
Yeah, that's a good one. I
know, right? Because it's like you think about like how teams treat rookie QBs and how offenses are run, and they typically try not to ask them to do too much. But man, they do seem like ready to let him like sling that shit too at the same time with what they've brought in there. I don't think it's like improbable, John. I mean, Keenan Allen is a reception monster. DJ Moore, like not necessarily known for being just like a receptions merchant, PPR merchant, but has that in his profile just based on like the season last year that he had, the completely different makeup of a team.
Yeah.
And then, we loved Rome as a rookie, coming into the season. So 80 is probably a lot like that. That's probably like way bullish. Like they need something needs to go wrong on defensively, I think, for that to take place.
I'm going to try and find one of those seasons there to look it up, because it's just interesting to see like the trends of offenses, because like all of the leaders in receptions in the history of the NFL, like they basically have all come in the last 10-ish years. Like there's a couple Chris Carter seasons that were like 122s in the 90s. Jerry Rice topped out at 122 as well. But like, Justin Jefferson in 2022, that would have been that's his rookie season. Yeah. Was like 128, So I don't know, just like the way offense is now played and like the tempo and stuff like that, would there be the chance that we could ever see like a viable triple stack where they're also amazing over the course of the entirety of the season?
And the other thing too with that is a lot of times those triple stacks, when they hit, they're a lot cheaper. It's really hard when all are super expensive.
Good point. Yeah. All right. Ken Walker here. We're almost up. Kamara.
I've been clicking Kenneth Walker when he's here. I think he's an awesome value at 71. I'm happy to do. If he goes off the board, yeah, he does, then I'm good with a receiver probably.
This is where I take DeAndre Hopkins every time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like I don't even flinch when I'm seeing this. This is, I know it sucks because it's like it's a hell of a bet on Will Levis like being good enough, but man, I just see the volume that he had and it just feels comfortable at this range in the 7th or the 6th.
There's a lot of bullish news on the Titans being so fast and so pass heavy that it's like,
I know,
why not ape in, right?
I know they want to be, but like will Levis allow that to take place? Can they be efficient enough?
I keep telling myself that somewhere someone ranked him as QB1 off the board 2 years ago. Is it time to get our second running back here with the Kamara, Aaron Jones?
I do a lot of Montgomery, but do you guys have any other preferences at running back? Otherwise,
Montgomery opposite of Debo is nice.
Kind of complements Achane well, I would say. It's more so like I think Aaron Jones is fine, but I don't take a lot of Aaron Jones, and I definitely don't take a lot of Kamara. But that might be a leak because Kamara was. I mean, we how quickly I forget those weeks where Kamara was just getting peppered with receptions and was the RB1 on some BR slates. But I haven't taken him a lot this season. It just doesn't feel. Just feels like a volume play, and don't love it.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about like what they could do with the backside of that. Like Jamal Williams is under contract for 2 more years. They could see what they have for early down work for Kendry Miller. Like the Kamara price tag just feels a little rich right now. They have an opt out of his deal next year as well. So it just it feels like everything's pointing in the wrong direction for like Kamara long term with the Saints. That being said, the bull case is like they think they can contend in a shitty division this year, and they're going to run him into the ground because it's most likely his last year with the team under that deal. So I don't know. I can see it both ways, but I tend to agree with you, Nez.
Yeah, I do too. One weird just ADP quirk. It like to me like Aaron Jones should pretty obviously be going ahead of Kamara. Like if you want to make that bet. Because I kind of think they're like, similar as far as like an aging running back who has shown, elite efficiency throughout their career. It's just like the Aaron Jones thesis is like pretty clean. It's just like he's healthy at this point, and he's going to give you so much more as a rusher than Kamara. Yeah, that one's like weird to me. Like, should Kamara be going in this range with all of these 0 RB targets? Like, sure. But specifically going ahead of Aaron Jones seems weird to me.
Yeah, I need to get to more Aaron Jones, man. I don't know why I haven't been. I think I just like have this I just keep thinking about like the lack of snaps in Green Bay, but like also remembering like just loving him as a talent. Yeah, I need to get around to some more Aaron Jones.
I'm lost in the sauce at the moment here, so you guys let me know when we're creeping back up there. I'm looking at these Broncos depth charts from like 2014, 2013, like that sort of thing.
Was Manny Sanders on there yet, or is he still a Steeler?
Manny Sanders comes in 14. This is in 15, 14. This year would have been like pretty close. So this would have been Peyton's first year with the Broncos, I think. And it was Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, Wes Welker, and then Julius Thomas. And it was 92, 87, 73, 65. So he almost had 4 pass catchers with greater than 70 receptions.
God, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. And then if you include Noshawn Moreno, he had 60 catches that year too. That's pretty. Yeah, that's a lot of passes being caught in one isolated offense. But that is also. Is that the highest touchdown season ever? Yeah, 55. That was the year
touchdowns. And it's so wild too that the year that they win the Super Bowl is like the noodle arm year. You know, it's just so funny the way that works.
Yeah.
So one decision we'll have to make is it's very unlikely that Caleb Williams comes back in the 10th. So you kind of have to make the decision of, is there 2 picks you really like? Obviously, I don't think we do.
Whoa. All right. Sergeant Sweeney makes that decision for us. Cool.
Why don't we do the Dak thing then?
Do you guys want to do Ferguson and Dak, or is that just like?
Honestly, I don't mind it. Why don't you do Ferguson first? If this dude wants to take Dak unstacked,
he's gonna
more power to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Earn his name here if he takes Dak.
We don't, just real quick, we don't have any bye week stuff, right? Do we with the tight ends? We're good.
No, that was 14 and 7. We're good there. Mostert goes, and then we could take Dak here.
I like that.
Something.
Yeah, with this core of wide receivers we have, I think this is like a detour that we can take is the adding of Ferguson there, getting that double stack.
Yeah, I don't mind that play.
There's another ambiguous scroll the F down we hadn't thought of yet would be Cowboys running back 2 / Cowboys wide receiver 2/3. That's going to be an interesting one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't want to do Jalen Tolbert, man. Please don't make me.
Yeah, I mean that's like the trend right now. Him and Turpin and like that sort of deal, right? Yeah, Pete, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I forget. I just think I like this setup for our team, and I like getting, we ended up doing Dak, whether it was him or Caleb. I like getting one quarterback here, and then it kind of gives us the flexibility to push that second one. Like if it is a Levis, who are our other wide receivers early? I'm trying to remember.
We got ourselves Debo and Keenan Allen, so no stack partners for Keenan Allen anymore. Yeah.
So we could maybe entertain Brock if he came back around, but I don't think we have to force that one. We can probably build out. This is probably a team we build out another backdoor stack.
I think so. This is definitely like a Dak Alpha year that we're playing here, just because we don't really have the opportunity to have a decent RB2 or QB2 rather, just because we gotta make up volume at wide receiver there, and obviously eventually at running back too. So you just got to play Dak just being QB1 almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people forget last year CeeDee Lamb, man. Like CeeDee Lamb had more to compete with last year in terms of reception dynamics, and he had the 6th highest receptions in the history of the NFL. Like he had like 128 or something like that last year. But Pete, I'll pose you the question that I posed Nez earlier when we were taking CeeDee Lamb. Is there any reason for him to slip with these holdout talks, with the eating the fine for not attending mandatory mini camps? Has he become the holdout risk that we thought Justin Jefferson was going to be?
No, I just, I mean, I think we've had this talk about like every wide receiver of like when has it actually manifested in a value change to their projection or whatever. Like even at like let's go like most extreme. Let's say this gets so bad and like CeeDee Lamb skips 4 weeks to start the season, and then it's like, okay, if we knew that, maybe he shouldn't go 1-2. Maybe he's then like 1-5.
Yeah,
like,
probably 1-5, 1-7. I mean, maybe some people take like Brees and Bijan over him. Would you take Amon-Ra? Would you take Amon-Ra 16 weeks or 17 weeks of Amon-Ra versus 12 of CeeDee Lamb? Who would you guys prefer? Like that's
that. Yeah.
I would be doing Amon-Ra if that was the situation.
Yeah, probably. I think he would probably slot in right after Amon-Ra, but you'd still take him before before Puka and AJ Brown.
Okay. Yeah. So interesting. Love the Galb range.
In that hypothetical, for a fact he comes back after week 4. But the way the market would handle that, like if the market just knew he was going to miss some games, but an unidentified amount, I bet you'd see him fall pretty far because they'd be worried. Like, what if he just doesn't give a fuck and he just sits out?
Yeah. Which has never been the case in the history of football outside of Le'Veon Bell that one time. So evergreen reminder.
On,
yeah.
Evergreen reminder.
Don't remind me.
People be tweeting out pictures of the GM of like Amon-Ra plus CD, and they won't be from last year if that were the case.
CD's like ascension to where he is now is like really, I don't know if maybe interesting is just like a cheap word to use, but like kind of like you don't really see it that much. Normally when guys ascend, at least in the best ball space, it's like a very quick ascension. Like we've been like slowly bringing up CD to this range, like he was a 2-3 turn to start after his rookie season. Then we bring him at the 1-2. Is he even worth it at the 1-2? And now we're like, you know what? Screw it. He actually is the CD and alpha conversation. But the way he's just like slowly accumulated his resume is like kind of, you don't really see it all that much.
We're kind of in a quarterback spot here. I would throw out Wicks or Palmer and then kind of make a quarterback decision, or if you want the Purdy plus Debo and shut it down, because he's got CMC too.
I would say Wicks because of I'm a bye week bro here, and we got a lot of week 5s.
Yeah, go for it.
Or Cooks.
Okay, so you guys just you didn't want the Purdy thing.
I'm not a.
I don't think that we can afford that detour personally.
I think we can here.
Yeah.
Well, now because we're at a 1-2-5-2.
We're not going to get it now because he's got CMC. I mean,
he's got QB.
Yeah, Tilted Bob's been doing some things, so who knows?
Well, he ruins our
Bob is
triple stack.
He's doing his own thing, is what he's doing.
That's true.
Bob's coloring outside the lines.
I do think we take Brock here because I do think we run the risk of like a Dak Will Levis feeling really thin, or even like a Dak Drake May where you're like quite on the line of, is this a 2 QB, 3 QB?
All right.
I like it.
Let's do it.
And this is the definitive scroll.
Okay, that's a hell of a
conversation.
I didn't quite realize how much of a fall that was either.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a value. All right, let's do it. Let's make it work.
So we're shutting it down at quarterback and tight end, and we're just ripping running backs, wide receivers the rest
easy
of the way.
mode. Yeah, just you got the bumpers on. You take
and this will line up well because I mean this is a sweet spot here. These next like 4 rounds, like we can probably come away with 2 to 3 running backs and a wide receiver we like.
Yeah, a lot of experience just smashing the flex position in these upcoming rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we got to leave a roster spot for Nez's boy Paris Campbell in case you didn't know. Pete, he is the wide receiver.
He wasn't here when I specifically made the Paris Campbell bull case when Pete was off there.
Yeah, please don't ever have that conversation when I'm on the show. So I get
Now we can kind of take a page out of your book, Pete, and kind of reverse engineer the rest of this team. Just kind of thinking in rounds 18 and 17 where I know for a fact I don't like the running backs, at least in rounds 18 when we're going to be on the clock. So maybe kind of thinking about if we do want wide receiver there, how many running backs would we like on this team? 6
interest
would
you
be
in
cool, but I think this could be 5 depending on when we get them.
Agreed.
Okay. Can interest you in a little Kenneth Gainwell scroll the F down run back off of our Dallas stack, chasing points in week 17 there, Ness?
You can interest me in Will Shipley.
All right, fine. Shipley it is.
Do we want to? So based on where we pick, we probably would have to do Rizzy Pearsall with one of the two. Do you guys want to do a double with Brock?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't get over the draft capital. Sometimes I forget. Pick 31. Rizzy Pearsall, man.
But okay, so like how much of that was an embarrassment of riches pick, kind of like CEH was to the Chiefs 2 years ago? Where it's like they came off a Super Bowl, then they were like, okay, yeah, we just like we got to pick at the tail end of the first round here and look at our roster. It's super sick. Let's just add them on. Like, how much is that is like real, and Juwan Jennings will actually just be the third wide receiver in that offense for the vast majority of the season, kind of thing, you know?
It's definitely worth like thinking about, because I don't know that like are the Niners a great, you know, I mean, they've hit in drafts with like, you know, Elijah Mitchell being like the 6th round running back that ended up like emerging. But are they great talent evaluators? You know, do we have a good history of them like being strong talent evals? Maybe more on the yes than the no, but you might be on to something there, and maybe just like a insurance pick if they did end up making a trade, you know, with one of those wide receivers. So I think you can, both things can be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I was just throwing it out there. Like I don't have a stance or a take on it, right? Like I'm curious.
Yeah, just because he's picked 31 doesn't automatically mean that he's involved and, you know, that he's putting up fantasy points. That's definitely true.
I mean, I would way rather make the bet associated with him than like getting overweight on Jennings or something like that, or even like Gray or something like that. But like, I think it's just interesting to like talk through like the entire range of outcomes. Then
yeah, I do think Juwan Jennings has a place on teams for sure. Like, there's a few different ways that he can.
The other end of the pendulum of range of outcomes is the fact that like Ayuk or Depot gets traded and he becomes like one of the best values on the board, period, right? All right, comes back to us here. The Pearsall picks just staring at us. Feels good.
Let's lock up Rizzy.
All right, Rizzy.
What's Chubb's ADP? Just because we're at pick 146, and I feel like he's definitely fallen past it, and I don't want to have to like think about making the decision. Oh shit.
118.
Ugh.
It's a little, to me. I mean, how do you guys feel about the Achane Jalen Wright pairing?
Just because it would be like our third running back, it feels. I don't like the way that it feels, but I'm not afraid of handcuffing though. Or cucking rather.
I think I feel the same as you. I'm not afraid of it, but yeah, there is something about it being our third where it's like, I was hoping it'd be easy and that like Kendre, Charbonnet, or Lloyd would be there, and now I feel like it's harder.
Now we have like a Chubb, Chandler, right?
You want it? How far is he past ADP? Let's do fucking Chubb. I mean, what are we doing?
I think, man, this is,
I can tell you why. I just put this in the Fantasy Life newsletter earlier. It's because he did his first commentary after, and it was this blurb here: no timetable for practice return. He didn't, and so now he's dropping. But it's like,
do you guys
already knew that?
Right. Yeah. We talked about it while you were gone, Pete, because we talked about it in terms of like the scrolling down that they did trade for Pierre Strong last year. And are we anointing Foreman too heavily when Pierre Strong was someone they gave up capital for last year as well? Or have they seen enough? So we talked about it a little bit, but just in terms of like a player that I can remember last year having a indefinite timeline of not returning was Zach Charbonnet, or was Ken Walker. And then Zach Charbonnet skyrocketed up boards. And then a week later, he was back at practice or whatever. Yeah. Obviously, apples and oranges. I just remember like the no timetable for return. And then it was like, 1 week later kind of thing. Now, completely different with Chubb. I just found it funny.
Yeah.
Thank God for that
Yeah.
blurb, man.
I
classic double count.
I like Chubb here. I think he's a nice running back 3 for this build. We'll get a couple more pieces, and we can get some production, and that David Montgomery's he's a utility player in this running back room, right? Where it's like, I feel good. Yeah, I feel good about the Chubb pick there. We also get him correlated with opposite Achane.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, you guys want leverage off of all the early pass catchers going on those Miami teams. Well, now we got running touchdowns back and forth in week 17 there.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the brand of a streamer to be taking Nick Chubb, but at this late and with this team, I think it makes a lot of sense. And you talk to football bros that aren't doing content, consuming content 24/7. They'll tell you that, I'd probably take Nick Chubb in like the 5th.
Right?
Like,
someone once told me that Nick Chubb's the best pure rusher in the NFL. People do forget that.
Oh, I think I have heard that once. I like to bounce things off my brother-in-law because he's got 2 kids, and he has a history of knowing ball, but like not like super tapped in. So that way I can get his untainted takes and
just tell us you want to dunce Normie's pick takes, please.
What?
You just want a Normie's takes, man.
I do want a Normie's takes. Yeah, I want a Normie's takes, but also like he watches football, and like played football. And like last year when Kamara's suspension was last season, right?
Yeah.
I'm not too far removed. He was like, I'd probably take Kamara in like the 5th round, and he was going in like the 10th round. I was like, oh man, like maybe I need more like Alvin. I'm like, he's suspended, right? He's like, yeah, but he's Alvin Kamara. I'm like, he is Alvin Kamara. Like maybe I should be like taking him. So we need to make it a whole segment. I think I might like hit him up on FaceTime and just like name off some ADPs and like, what does he think?
It's a really refreshing, like just mindset to like go out with your boys and like have a beer and talk fantasy football with guys who aren't like this dedicated and in this space and just like get their perspective. It's like a really good hard reset, right?
It is. It's so great.
I'm excited about a running back who's falling here, and I'm just worried I'm gonna have my heart ripped out.
Sergeant Sweeney.
Don't click over to the board. Is Ray Davis here? Did I miss something?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a gift.
I love that pick.
Yeah. Very much into Ray Davis.
Let's do it. I guess we could turn off these other buttons here, although it is kind of cool to see.
Yeah. We got the bumpers on.
Yeah.
Anytime you can gray out the QB and tight end, it's a great feeling.
It is a good feeling. I wonder how many people do that, like just in drafts to feel something. I think about that in the baseball. Well, in the baseball streets, like people like to make 3-man stacks where they correlate 2 infielders and an outfielder, or 2 outfielders and 1 infielder. They don't like to do 3 outfielders or 3 infielders, right?
No.
Yeah.
Vidal, I was like thinking about, but what do you guys think here? I like Michael Wilson, and I like Khalil Herbert would be my 2.
Yeah, I'm fine with Herbert. I've been clicking obviously Bucky
We can do Bucky too.
Like Luke McCaffrey are my guys in this range.
I'll break the tie. Let's take Herb.
Cool.
I think I like Herb more than Bucky right now.
You're disgusting. All right, no, are you banking on is part of that hoping for a trade?
I think part of it is just like the path is way cleaner last year without Foreman gone and a more traditional quarterback. Like, yes, Caleb can run, but like this would be like a more traditional offense in terms of like he's not going to lose like 10 touches a game to Justin Fields just taking off with the ball because their best play is a running play. And I don't know if he can just out snap Roshan, like lifting tide. What is it? Tide raises all ships or
Rising
whatever.
Tide.
No, let him cook. Let him cook.
There we go.
Sorry. I should have. Damn it. We would have got a beautiful phrase out of John there.
But wouldn't you argue, like,
I don't want to misconstrue what you said, but I don't think it's cleaner with DeAndre Swift.
That's what I was gonna say.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah, I don't want to misconstrue.
Unless you're writing Roshan off for dead, right? Then
yeah. That's fair. Maybe it isn't cleaner because.
But
I think Khalil Herbert's a good running back. Like, I don't want to just completely forget about like how talented I thought he was last season now, just because like things change, and maybe I should be caring more about what the team might be telling us by bringing in DeAndre Swift. I think that they're just trying to bring in as much talent as possible around a rookie QB contract.
Right.
But there are out like the fact that he has an out via trade is definitely like intriguing. I just think he has a chance to rotate and carry the ball, because like DeAndre Swift, not a workhorse, never has been. Talented, yes. Not good that he's there over Herbert. Herbert still has a way to score points weekly with strong contingency upside, I believe.
John, what we're trying to say is you should have just said he's the best pure rusher on the Bears. And that
Next time.
That would have played better. Yeah, I mean, like, he was 5th in the NFL in rushing yards last year.
Oh, man.
Let me see.
I've been doing a lot of the Rodgers Conklin stuff too, that Fully Loaded did. Like, backstacking Aaron Rodgers is becoming way too normal for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The I do like that we went like running back here. I tend to like the wide receiver options in like 16, 17, 18 way more than the running backs.
Exactly. That's how I like to reverse engineer these teams, is like knowing that I think the wide receivers in June at least, wide receivers in round 17 and 18 feel immensely better than running back.
That was going to be my point, Nez, where it's like in June, because that is 100% going to flip as soon as we get to August. Like, we're going to feel completely different about that once we have clarity of depth chart and backfields, or potentially some injuries and whatnot. Then all of a sudden we're going to feel more comfortable with the running backs on this backside, I think. Or just that there's more of them.
Right. More of them. Yeah. And like, I mean, running backs with contingency value that are likely to be zeros, but still hold strong contingency value, are still good picks. It's just a matter of knowing like who has actual contingency value. And I think part of that is, becomes a talent question as well, right? I mean, just because the guy's next man up doesn't mean that he's a good pick. But
right.
Right now, Braylon Allen is that like number one pure contingency play. And I think, I was going to mention, just kind of touch on Algier, but he's not, I don't think he's pure contingency, but he's kind of trending that way. But still, a guy that if he was up, God forbid, then like you could feel confident in him actually being productive,
Yeah, that's fair, man. Yeah.
One Dale.
Yeah, we got 5 running backs on this team, but one is Chubb, so it feels like 6, no?
Honestly, I would just do a little correlation tier boost up here to Tolbert and just like rip in a triple with Dak.
Okay.
But what was the other one you said? The correlation boost on who?
No one. I was just talking about the structure, whether it's like going to be a 5 or 6 running back team. All right. I'm good with Tolbert. I don't mind Tolbert at all.
Let's do it.
I'm open to other picks. Do it before
I pound the table for Tyler Boyd or DJ Chark.
I do like DJ Chark, but I mean,
like, I do like
this is where though, like I do think you got to use the correlation tiebreaker. It's like,
yeah, he's clearly the wide receiver 3, very clearly.
Even with Deuce Vaughn transitioning to wide receiver.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I did mention that. Is Slayton off the board? I think so, right? Yeah, almost.
No.
I tell you what, man, I think him and Juan, the gap between him and Wandale is not that big, but those are my 2 options here. Pete, John, someone.
I like Chark or do Braylon. He's the buzziest right now. Get him.
Well, you can put yourself in hard mode. You had the player card expanded, so you had to drag even further.
Still got it, boys. Totally redeems himself.
No, the Braylon Allen Steve, I just listening to people talk about him these days.
Oh, it couldn't be more clear he's the RB2, right?
Yeah. I like
the
that. And
feeling-
like, I don't mind getting like, we're basically going to take 3 Jalen Tolberts on this team if we go wide receiver there. And then it's like, all right, let's just do 2 Jalen Tolberts. How
Yeah.
about?
right.
Just 2
Yeah.
Jalen Tolberts.
And I do think the 6th running back was a good play on this team when you start with kind of like Anchor Achan, and then like
Anchor
Montgomery's
Achan is
fine.
not the solid foundation that you build
Right.
advancing teams out of, right? Like you need to probably bank on Achan missing a game, Achan having only 6 carries some games. Like you gotta anticipate that for sure.
And let me see our wide receivers again. I mean, the only thing did we not end up with a rookie wide receiver on this team? Kind of got shut out.
Oh, sorry.
Pearsall.
Pearsall.
Rizzy. Yeah, you're
Okay,
right.
we're good,
We got
we're
our
good.
quota.
Yeah.
And we have Wicks on this team, right?
Yep.
We do.
Yeah.
Is he a rookie?
Our wide receiver room, he might as well be the love and adoration he gets.
So if Wicks is gonna be the heralded prince, the one that was promised, who's out? Is it Dubs or is it Watson? I think it's most likely Watson doesn't run a lot of snaps, right?
Well, because I mean, what are you gonna have? You're gonna have 3 wide receiver: Jaden Reed, Christian Watson,
Romeo Dubs.
Yeah.
But everyone's like but it's like everyone just knows Wicks is this talented receiver that it's gonna happen. It's just I guess we just don't know who is gonna be at the expense of.
I mean, the coach speak stuff associated with Wicks was pretty crazy. And then all the other articles coming out with the hamstring research associated with Watson, where he's almost like the test case for these new hamstring things. Like all the news for Wicks is kind of like usurping Watson because they have the most overlap in terms of skill set and the way in which they play. Like for me, they feel like lateral. Those two. So I don't think you can have a 3 wide receiver set that doesn't have Dobbs and Reed on the field and then the other spot is Watson versus Wicks. I think that's how it was last year.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely scenario. The nightmare scenario, which I don't think is impossible, but the nightmare scenario is it's Jaden Reed, because we saw at the end of the season, like Jaden Reed kind of like, he had that awesome ascension and then sort of fell off of the game plan. Maybe he was still hurt and it was just sort of a decoy. That would be absolute nightmare fuel because I think Jaden Reed's awesome. But
I love Jaden Reed, man. I feel like he's getting penalized almost too much for the ambiguity. He's the one that I feel the market does as well. Like he's going in the 5th round, but I feel so good about his talent, about his role. When we talk about the rotation stuff, like he's the guy that's going to be getting his touches each game.
I agree. And if we cover the names up of these players, right? We know, and it's Jordan Love. And Jordan Love is an ascending quarterback who shined in the playoffs and really came alive at the end of last season with a good coach. And we have the 2nd-year receiver who, since when did we stop loving 2nd-year receivers and preying on a 2nd-year breakout? Like Jaden Reed, who caught a bunch of touchdowns from this guy. We would be drafting Jaden Reed in like the 3rd round. But we're not. And I think it's fair that we're not. But I'm just saying with those attributes on a player, that's typically somebody that we would be juicing up boards even further.
Yeah.
He's also a guy that they manufacture touches for. So if he does lose snaps and he owns only like a 70% snap guy, like it's not like the worst thing in the world because they'll still manufacture touches for him.
Yeah, whereas those carries, you want your guy to just be a pure wide receiver, but the fact that they wanted to get him the ball, I'll take that as a bullish signal.
Yeah, because if Romeo Dubs loses snaps and all of a sudden he's a 70% player, like that's not the same thing.
Right. Yeah. It's an interesting situation in Green Bay. It'll be a lot of fun in dailies to, rotate those and builds.
I think we're all kind of like in lockstep that this is a wide receiver with this last pick.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. If Chark's still on the board, do you guys want Chark or do we want to scroll somewhere else?
We can talk about it.
I like Chark. I was trying to think, any of the correlations. We didn't have a Philly bring back for the Dallas stuff in week 17. We could always hit him with the gritty. We were talking about Trey Tucker.
Yeah, I think I like Chark personally.
I like Chark.
Okay, Chark it is then, gentlemen. I do think there is something fun with the Dallas stuff where we have no bring back, where you do like a contingent wide receiver play. Like you do
bringbacks for this game are going to be hard, are they not?
Yeah,
Shipley. It would have been like flipping wide receiver and then doing Shipley instead of Allen.
Yeah, the only other way to bring back that game is like to not stack Dak and instead do Hurts with CeeDee Lamb. I was kind of thinking about that as we were building this out. It's like, wow, it is kind of tough to bring this game back unless you do Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, the only one that I did was one of those $12 pug ones or whatever on screen, whereas like you just completely flip the board and you do Devonta Smith in the first round or in the second round, and you do Hurts in the third.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
sharp.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's sharp. Maybe it's okay in a time box. It's okay in a time box contest, but
yeah.
June 5th, off and on the clock. All three. Boom. There it is. All right, for the audio listeners, 2682, your standard build. That's Dak, that is Brock, that's Achan, Montgomery, Chubb, Ray Davis, Khalil Herbert, Braylon Allen, Lamb, Samuel Allen, or Keenan Allen, Nuke, Wicks, Ricky, or Rizzy Pearsall, as he's known now, Jalen Tolbert, DJ Chark, Mark Andrews, and Jake Ferguson. Dude, I think this team turned out better by getting sniped on Lamar.
I think you're right. I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I like the builds because a lot of times, when you do the 2 QB, 2 tight end, obviously Andrews is an elite tight end, but a lot of times it features like a really top QB and then like a punt, second option. Like I like getting these 2 quarterbacks like in this window where you didn't pay a premium for it, but you're still kind of playing for them to put up, elite weeks and basically trying to cobble together an elite quarterback between these 2 guys. And then that really allowed us to load up on running backs and wide receivers. I just think you feel that extra roster spot with like the Braylon Allen pick versus having to take a third quarterback.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep there. A little bit of the GM at the front of the board with maybe a contrarian one between CD and Samuel as well there. Yeah, I think it's an astute point, Pete, and I think this is a pretty good draft. This Chubb price is going to be very interesting to monitor over the next little bit here.
Yeah, good point
the nice
with that blurb.
Thing about that price is like he can get significantly cheaper, and we still like it would take a pretty catastrophic news for him to regularly slip past 150.
That's got to be that's a pretty hard resistance, I think.
Yeah.
Even if he goes preseason pup and gets the blurb opening the year on the pup, those were all things that the community.
I thought we were baking in.
I thought that was baked in. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You always think it's baked in, and it never is. It's so evergreen that you think it is, and it's never not.
Yeah. These ones are. I think this is like we forecasted some ADPs that we thought were going to rise, and some of them were that little pocket of wide receivers with DK Metcalf, Devonta Smith, and Cooper Kupp there, and we did see Kupp flip to the other side of the board on this one, and we're seeing Devonta rise, but I think the reason Devonta is the one that's rising is what everyone's alluding to in the chat here, is the CeeDee Lamb drafter does push him up for correlation purposes in the 3rd round. And I think that's why he's been like the starkest 3rd round wide receiver to get like 3 spots of movement.
Yeah, and like you said, the Eagles, it's hard. We took Jake. Otherwise, maybe that Jake Ferguson pick could be like Goddard. You could do that. Otherwise, for me, it is just like Shipley would be the last kind of option I would want to pull there.
Yeah,
and like you've mentioned before on shows, Pete, like it's still week 17. It's still correlation. Like it's we didn't drop the baby because we didn't throw Will Shipley on this team. It's still a bet that this team is going to score a lot of points when it matters.
Well, and the whole point too, it's like it's an awesome thing, right? Like correlation is a boost, but guess what's a huge negative? Like taking a 0 here, we have more confirmation that Braylon Allen is for sure the RB2 right now than we do that Shipley is for sure the RB2. If we had the exact same news about both of those guys, then like Shipley then massively moves ahead because we get the confirmation and the correlation. But I don't know. I don't think it's nitty. Like I've been thinking about it a lot too lately. It's like we get so few bullets. We get so few. You have to get so many things right just to get these teams advancing. It's like, why draft teams with your hand behind your back, or like trying to show off? It's just like, let's just it doesn't mean you can't be aggressive with your picks. It's just like, you're not like crazy aggressive with your 17th and 18th round picks.
Exactly.
Yep. Good shouts. All right. We are done here for today. Good luck to everybody doing the MLB stuff. No MLB stuff from us today. Reminder to people though, that it looks like WNBA may or may not be on its way. In the rankings tab there, we see some WNBA stuff there. And then the Pick'em stuff. We're going from 5 to 8 now. So that's live already. So you guys can get yourself an 8 Pick'em. Hopefully it's better than the one we built on the show with that yesterday, where we were directionally accurate with the home runs. They just came from the wrong bats, unfortunately there. But we'll be back tomorrow, probably 1 p.m. Eastern, maybe 2 p.m. Eastern. Most likely going to be a little bit of NBA Finals preview and MLB slate, Nez?
Yep. Yeah, sounds about right.
All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know WNBA, but I'm best going to learn. We're going to learn ourselves some WNBA. And then Friday will be paywall. So if you guys are not members to the BadgeBros channel, do consider for less than the price of one Battle Royale to sign up there for monthly. And we do some paywall streams. Try and do at least 2 a week. That turns into like 1.5 per week. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll even do paywall tomorrow. Pete.
Yeah, I am going to have a very busy day tomorrow. I'm going to have a new Deposit Kingdom video dropping on the elite tight ends. I've been working on that video for a while. That's finally going to come out. We are going to have lulls at 1:30 p.m. Neil Orfield's going to come on and draft with us as he quests to be the oldest person to ever stream all 150 of his best ball mania drafts. Then we're going to have ship chasing. I'm sure I'm going to draft over there. Then I have a double header at night. David Kitchen doing randomizer followed by best ball after dark. So big day tomorrow. 4 shows and a new video dropping, and I'll have the Fantasy Life newsletter out in the morning as well. So
I think our show just became at 12 and paywalled.
There you go. But yeah,
that's going to be must see, man. I can't wait. The David Kitchen randomizer might rival Evan Silva. 2 different dudes, but I mean, that's going to be a must watch. I can't wait.
Yep. Yeah, that's it for me.
Beautiful. Neds, any party words?
No, I'll see you in the baseball lobbies.
Likewise. Pete, send us on out, bro.
All right, guys. Be sure to get all your Chase Claypool and Braylon Allen before they are ungettable in the near future. We'll see you guys next time.